and this faith journey has produced is peace and joy. And so, God, we enter your gates today with thanksgiving. We are thanking you that we are growing up in faith. We are thanking you that we are becoming and beholding and becoming change for the time we have spent in your presence.
Hello. Good afternoon, and welcome to today's edition of Midday Manna. My name is Leonore Jones, and I have the awesome privilege of being your host of this broadcast, where together we learn some things. We grow through our learning, and eventually we build something, right? And that thing we're all endeavoring to build is a lasting legacy. So welcome. We always have to do the housekeeping stuff, of course. So I have bid you welcome, and now I want to ask you to do a few things for me. I would love, if you are watching on YouTube or somewhere else, if you could subscribe, follow, right? Like or share. And those are your options. Subscribe, follow, like, share. I should edit this to show follow, right? But in the meantime, while we're doing it, I'm gonna fix it in real time, guys. Because that's what we want you to do. We want you to subscribe, follow, like, share. And the reason for that is I'm pretty sure at some point during this, I'm going to say something that is interesting or something or helpful. And what we want is to get this message across to as many people as possible and to those who may stand in need of it. And so I'm asking you, I'm here, I am sharing, I am giving, and I just want my gift to go as far as possible. So always I invite you to once again subscribe, follow, like, share. All right. Then, I already got comments. Hey, girl, you are going to, and we say this back where we're from, but that you're going to live really long, because literally I said to myself, when I get off, I'm going to call you. Like, I made a mental note that check this box, call her when you get off, because we have not connected. So you're really going to live long. But yes, guys, we are here. And today we're talking about the first step in leaving a lasting legacy. Because despite all these midday mannas and all the wonderful information I have shared and all the time we've prayed together and all this stuff, I realize that some of you still don't actually know exactly what I do. Right? And you're like, lady, I know you can pray the place down. I know that you are extremely encouraging and that we learned some really great information for you. I know that you ask us to subscribe, follow, like, or share. I know you've told us about like some of your services and some of your classes, but your company is called Legacy Builders. And what does that have to do, as they would say, with the price of tea in China, right? Well, I am so glad you asked. And today I am going to do two things. The first thing is I'm giving you a sneak peek into my next release, which is called How to Build a Lasting Legacy, right? And you're like, what? Yes, you guys know I'm always writing a book. I'm currently writing 2/3, and it's 2/3 because it's too active, but there's a third in the wings that I know I have to take care of, but 2/3. But this one I plan to finish as quickly as possible, God's willing. And this is going to be the newest release. The book is forthcoming. I can't promise you this year, but by first quarter of next year, this book will be in your hands. But I got this idea of this topic from a conversation I was having last night, because it was like so many people, like, you know me for stuff, but you don't actually know what I do. You don't know what legacy building is. And even if you have an idea, I'm sure that the idea you have is not the one that of what I actually do. Oh, I'm excited. See that? Yay! But it's not what I actually do. So let's break down legacy. Let's start there, because our company is called Legacy Builders. All our work, even all our classes, though they do not seem to go together, they actually fall under the legacy building purview. And once I explain what it is, I absolutely believe that you will understand. So let's start with legacy. And it's a very popular word, right? But I'll tell you, the first thing about legacy is that we take a holistic approach to legacy. That means that we aren't limiting legacy to the dictionary definition. You go to the dictionary, you hear legacy is pretty much the ability to pass on a financial portion increase to your heirs after you've gone, right? So it's this ability to, your legacy is the amount of money. But we know that that is not the entirety of legacy. I love to talk about, we talk about, for example, Chadwick Boseman, which is a very interesting, because yes, there was money that he left to his, I think she was his wife, or maybe she wasn't his wife, but to his wife, and there was an estate and all of that. But bigger than that, we have this movie, right, that we all talk about, Black Panther, that is a legacy of his, that a shift and a pride that he created, not just in of himself, but in a culture, right? And that's a part of his legacy. That's a part of his relational legacy, because it was because of his relationships. I was driving in my car and I heard, I was listening to the radio, which is something I do very infrequently. And they were talking about how Letitia talks about on the set of the new movie that is coming out, it was so different because he wasn't there. But even though he wasn't physically there, she could still feel the repercussions of him having been there. And so in the moments when she was struggling, she had this relational legacy to fall back on that allowed her to push through, because she could hear him, in her mind's eye or ear, as we would have it, reminding her that, she can do hard things. That's a relational legacy. That's a relationship that has been built that will pay dividends that far outweigh any amount of currency. Right? But that's the legacy. Then there are, and I won't go into all the different areas today. I will go through all the different areas of your legacy house. But what I will tell you is that that's just one area. So we can agree that legacy isn't just money. It isn't just your relationships. It isn't just what you say or what people say about you after you're gone. It's bigger than that. And why I focus on legacy building is that we all know it requires intentionality to do anything well. If you want to be a good student, you have to be intentional about studying. And I saw this quote, and I think it was Aristotle that they said, but it said that he solved the problem of success or consistency. And this was yesterday, but he pretty much said, in order for you to do something excellent and do it well, you have to begin with the end in mind. So the first step of, let's say, building a house, because that's the analogy that I generally stick with. And that is the way legacy was revealed to me. It was a house. The first step of building your legacy house is actually having a clear vision of what the house is. Like, you want to know if you want what color the roof is. Is it going to be all brick or siding? How many bedrooms? How many kitchens? How many bathrooms? Where's the living room? What are your fixtures? When you are building a house, the first step is taking this picture out of your head and getting a full picture. And so when we talk about legacy, one of the first things we want to introduce people to is this idea of stop having your legacy as an abstract idea and actually have your legacy as a plan. a plan, an executable plan. And that's one of the things we do at Legacy Builders, where we have a template that we have created that will allow you to take your legacy from a picture in your head. Oh, I want to do this and I want to do that and I want to this. And it stops being in your head and it becomes this executable plan that you can go through. And these are the steps. And when I've completed steps 1 through 5, then the first phase of my legacy is complete. So we help you be intentional about your legacy, right? And so you're like, if I'm talking good, put a thumbs up in the comments for me. But that's what one thing that we do. We help you, be intentional about it. And we doing so, we take it from this informal idea and we create this executable plan. And that is what our legacy planning sessions are all about, where you go in and you take this executable plan and you sit with us and we help you create this executable plan. Now that we understand what legacy is and what we want to do with it, now I want to tell you, so the first step, right, is getting this clear image. But what are you getting a clear image of? And how do you get a clear image, right? Because it's easy for me to say, okay, your legacy is a house. And easy for me to tell you your legacy is multidimensional. It's not limited to money. It's not limited to relationships. It's not just your spiritual stewardship, right? Because, I seen a t-shirt and somebody wore a t-shirt that said generational curse breaker. And that's really, really great. That means you're stewarding a spiritual legacy. But how who knows you did that? And then the people who are building on this, what preparations have you left for them? What instructions have you led for them? What have you learned that say, I've learned that this is a hindrance for our family and I have done the work of breaking this, but in moving forward, you guys should be sensitive to this. Where is that stored? And you're like, sis, that's a lot. That's the way I think about things. I am very much detailed. And so we're going through this and I was like, okay, if we have this house that people are going to build and we're going to help them build this plan, once you have your plan, right? And I've already told you we have services about the plan. Great. But what if you come to me and you're like, I have a plan, but I have lots of questions about my plan, because once you have the plan, and you don't have to use our services to derive at it. Maybe you have enough details for your plan, but you go and you're like, you know what? I'm going to start building. What's the first thing that you do if you start building your legacy? And if you have an answer, I want you to put your answers in the comment for me. What do you think is the first step, the first part, the most important almost part of your legacy? What is what do you need to know? And what is that thing that everything else is hinged on? Any takers? And I'm not going to pause here for long, I promise you. All right, I don't have no takers right now, and that's fine, because I'm going to tell you the answer. And the answer is this broadcast right here. The first thing, the thing that your legacy hinges on, is your identity / your purpose. And it can't be one of, and I am submitting to you that it's a both and not an either or. You're like, what? I said what I said. Your identity and purpose. Those are the foundation of your legacy. If you do not have clear, concrete answers to questions like, who am I? Why am I here? What is my unique purpose? What are my gifts, natural and spiritual? If you don't have set, straight, clear answers on those questions, I submit to you, you are going to struggle building a legacy. Identity and purpose. Now, I'm going to read you a quote, right? Because you're going to be like, sis, what? And so interesting. I told you the book is coming. And so literally, I am looking through the manuscript because there's a full manuscript that exists already. I'm telling you, like, I'm actively writing this. And the quote that I picked for this chapter called Identity and Purpose, it says, the value of identity, of course, is that so often with it comes purpose. And that's by Richard Grant. Again, I'm going to read it. The value of identity, of course, is that so often with it comes purpose. And that's why I told you it's both and not an either or, because so often we do a lot of work about, and we hear a lot of talk about purpose, or I'm walking in my purpose, and my purpose this and my purpose that. But your purpose and your identity are intricately tied together. And to leave a lasting legacy, you need both. You need to know not just who you are, but why you're here and what are you uniquely gifted and qualified and predestined and preloaded, and to a certain extent predetermined to do. And I say a certain extent because God has a plan for us, but we have to choose to allow him to do it through us, right? So he isn't like, okay, and his plan is not so as specific as like, no, I made you a doctor. And it could be, but you actually have to choose to go through med school. But it could be that his plan was like, I have put this healing, this understanding in you, and it's up to you to get that training. But what I'm saying is, if you have been looking and, oh, I'm walking in purpose, or if you are confused about your purpose and confused about who you are, it is no wonder that this idea of legacy is overwhelming to you. So you listen to the podcast and you read the self-help books and you're still stuck because you're like, maybe you know one well and not the other, or you're not clear on either one of them. And so you sit down and you try to do what they tell you to do, which is create this clear picture. And you might even get most of the picture in, but then when you're ready to jump in and start doing something, you're like, man, I don't know. I don't know what to do. So I've clearly now I've done a couple of things. I've told you what legacy is. Then I've told you what I believe the foundation of legacy is, which is your identity and purpose. And then the last thing I want to tell you is I'm going to give you an answer. And I'm going to send you in a direction that I think will really help you do this. So, so we'll start here. Now we're saying identity and purpose, not either or, both and. You need both of those things to lead a legacy. And we're calling them the foundation, right? Because we read in the Bible the story of the man who built his house upon the rock and who built his house upon the sand. And what I am telling you is that your identity is either the rock or the sand, because when the trials of life, when the storm comes, when the rain blows, if you are secure in those, the house that you've built will stand. If those things are not secure, then your house will fall. And you're back to, and here's why, because you aren't sure. And so you go and you try and redo the plan. So these are key and crucial. Okay. So then so they're key. Now here's how they tie together. If your identity is the ground, then your purpose is the address. Are y'all tracking with me right now? If your identity, right, is the ground. So I live in Baltimore City, and so my identity is the ground, the plot of land. But how do you know where to find me? Your purpose does that. Your purpose is, this is my plot of ground, but your purpose tells people how to find you. It's your address, right? If I'm talking good, y'all give me a thumbs up. I feel like I'm giving y'all all the tea right now, all the knowledge. And again, you want more, you want deeper explanations, look out for the book. The book is How to Build a Lasting Legacy, right? And so I've told you now about your identity. I've told you about your purpose and why they go together. I've told you the role that they would play in the idea of legacy, right? Because these are the foundational questions that you have to know in order to, build up. And so I'm going to give you now one clue about how to do both. And I'm going to say it in a strange way. The Bible tells us that we were made in the image of God, right? Back there in Genesis, it says, God created man in his own image and in his own likeness. Created he him, created he them. That's what it says in the good old King James Version. And so that is what it is. That is your identity. So number one, your identity is this idea that you are an image bearer of God. Now, why am I telling you this? I am telling you this because here is the juxtaposition of that sentence. The truth is, the way you see God is a reflection of the way you see yourself. I'm going to just be quiet for 30 seconds so you can process that. You were created in the image of God. So the way you see God is the way you see yourself. So, i.e., if you have a flawed image of God, you also have a flawed image of yourself. And then because your image is flawed, the very things that you require and need to cement and secure your identity, they're lacking. And that is why, so you guys have seen me and I've been here and I have Midday Manna and we talk a lot about Jesus and about identifying Jesus. And I give you encouraging messages about Jesus. And on Fridays, I come and I pray with you. And why am I so Jesus-centric? Because I understand that Jesus is the requirement. Like the rock that we're talking about that creates our foundation, that's Jesus, guys. And so I see it as my job to create spaces and to give information that helps you see him clearly. Because if I can show you a different picture than the one you had of Jesus, and you can change your understanding of him and change your understanding of yourself, then I have given you the most valuable tool I can possibly give you to change what it means to have your last name. And that is why Midday Manna and why Legacy Builders exist. Because we understand that your identity is seated and secure as a child of God. And so I want you to take that. I want you to run with that. I want you to mull over that idea that the way you see God is a direct reflection of the way you see yourself. And so when you're thinking about this God who is punitive or authoritative or even distant, and then you think of this work of building this house, how difficult is it when the power source, the thing you need, is not even functioning as it should, right? And so I just want to encourage you that today, as you think about building your legacy, as you think about what is my identity, what is my purpose, which is my the ground and my address and how people will find me. Will they find you in God, secure in your position, or will they find you wandering? That is all that I have for you today. I hope that this was really, really helpful for you. I am going to leave it up. I am surely going to leave it up. Again, I'm going to ask you to always, I'm going to go back, right? And I'm going to tell you, like, hey, do that. Do that. Subscribe, like, share. I'm always asking you to do that. But I just felt like for a long time, I've been, out here and I've been doing it. And I think people were confused, and I don't want any confusion. This, what I am doing, these words about Jesus, they are legacy building because he is the foundation. And if we do not have a right image and a right relationship with God, it is impossible to build transcendent wealth. Now, you got to keep following me to understand what that term means, transcendent wealth. I'm not telling you nothing else about it, but I want you to, like, this chick done said transcendent, not regular wealth, transcendent wealth. And it is impossible to build transcendent wealth absent from Jesus. So you guys have a great day. I look forward to seeing you on Friday. We are still absolutely praying for baby Elle. If you follow me on social media, you know that I put out this prayer request. I am asking you to bombard heaven on this little boy's behalf. We are absolutely in need of a move of God. And I believe that it is still entirely possible. So I'm not going to put that down. I am actually going to raise it up and shout it louder. We need God to do some amazing things for this little boy. So thank you so much for joining me today. And as I always tell you, I pray that the latter half of your day is greater than the beginning. Bye-bye.
What our trust and this faith journey has produced is peace and joy. And so, God, we enter your gates today with thanksgiving. We are thanking you that we are growing up in faith. We are thanking you that we are becoming and beholding and becoming changed for the time we have spent in your presence.